Tonight on Y News. Ombudsman Castro Morales faces disbarment charges at the Supreme Court. Kadamay members maintain resistance against eviction from housing units in Pandi, Bulacan. President Rodrigo Duterte vows to create a billion-peso trust fund for families of policemen killed on duty.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development intensifies its campaign against cash card pawning of some Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program beneficiaries. DOH launched a new strategy to eliminate tuberculosis epidemic in the country. And Team USA celebrates after World Baseball Classic match against Puerto Rico.
Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center, this is Y News with Angelo Castro III and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. A disbarment complaint was filed today by a losing senatorial bet against Ombudsman Castro Morales. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
Ombudsman Castro Morales is now facing disbarment raps for clearing former President Benigno Aquino III in fund mess involving the Disbursement Acceleration Program or DAP. Earlier today, former Manila Councilor Greco Bellica filed a disbarment complaint against Morales before the Supreme Court. He claims that Morales violated the lawyer's oath when she dismissed the graft and malversation charges against Aquino despite a Supreme Court ruling directing an investigation into the fund mess and hold persons behind it liable. In the same resolution, the Ombudsman indicted former Budget Secretary Florencio Butz Abad.
It is in the lawyer's oath that you will apply justice, you will not be partial, you will not be biased, and by dismissing the cases against Pinoy and Abad, she refused the Filipinos of justice.
However, Morales may not be disbarred while in office because being a lawyer is an eligibility for her position. She is set to step down in July next year.
Of course, we know that disbarment can only be filed after her term as an impeachable officer. Pero if the court will allow, because of the peculiarity of the case.
Bellica is also preparing an impeachment complaint against the Ombudsman.
Marami siyang po ang kaso, one among which na napakalagay yung sa 44. Diba, yung investigation sa mga Yolanda, yung sa election fraud. Ay sinampa sa kanya, puro po inupuan yan. Dahil ito po yung mga kaso na isinampa sa kanya ng kanyang appointed officer.
In a statement, Ombudsman Morales says she is ready to face any complaint, anytime, anywhere. Morales was appointed Ombudsman by former President Aquino after retiring as Supreme Court Justice in 2011. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
President Rodrigo Duterte has once again assured well-performing cops of not neglecting their needs during his speech in today's graduation rites of PNPA Masidlak class of 2017. Grace Casim will tell us why.
I will assure you now, I will make you the guarantee that I will leave a legislation that will put in trust so many billions. Ngayon, ako na ang nagbabayad sa mga anak ng mga kasama ninyo na masawi na sa buhay. At yung mga asawa nila, automatic. Nandyan si Secretary Sueno, tatanungin ko yung byuda, saan ka nakatira, kung may trabaho ka ba o wala. Then automatically, tapos ka Secretary Sueno, give her an employment nearest to the barangay where she lives. So, yung mga bata, the presidential staff takes care of the expenses, education.
A trust fund for the families of policemen who will die while performing their duty. This is what President Rodrigo Duterte promised in his speech during the graduation rites of the Philippine National Police Academy Masidlak class of 2017 today. The president also gave the cadets pieces of advice while handling their diplomas. Amid the criticisms against the president over the issue of extrajudicial killings, President Duterte advises the new policemen not to hesitate to perform their duties whatever happens.
Do it right. At kung napasubo kayo sa inyong performance of duty or duty connected, ako ang may sagot niyan. And I will provide the legal at 1,000 ang napatay mo, okay lang. I will defend you. I will protect you.
Isa pong malaking bagay yun para sa amin, lalo na po nagkakaroon kami ng motivation para gawin lalo ng pagigian lalo na mabuti yung trabaho namin.
Meanwhile, the class top-notcher expressed interest to work for the Philippine National Police or PNP.
Nagustuhan ko po yung pagiging investigador at sa tingin ko po sa investigation po naglalaro lahat ng bagay po, lalo na sa criminal justice.
144 cadets graduated today and 22 of them are females. Majority of the graduates want to enter the police service while others want to be in the Bureau of Fire and Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. PNP Chief Director General Ronald De La Rosa meanwhile vows to give Glock 19 to each of the top 10 graduates. Grace Casid, UNTV News and Rescue, Cavite.
PNP Chief Police Director General Ronald Bato de la Rosa advises the graduates of Masindak class of 2017 to avoid asking favors from politicians to get higher positions. Lea Ilagan will tell us why.
Huwag kayong lumapit sa mga politiko o sa mga influential government officials para makiusap na i-assign kayo sa ganitong unit dahil dyan nag-start yung hindi magandang takbo ng karir ninyo pag pinapakialaman na ng ibang tao.
This has been one of the pieces of advice of PNP Chief Police Director General Ronald Bato de la Rosa to the graduates of the Philippine National Police Academy Masidlak class of 2017. General de la Rosa emphasizes to the graduates that they should work hard instead so they could get promotions and never allow anyone to influence them, especially politicians.
Huwag kayong maghingi ng special treatment. That's your destiny. Yun ang dapat mong tanggapin. Kasi dapat pag bago ka serbisyo, huwag kang lumapit sa kung kanino-kanino para maghingi ng magandang assignment. Diyan nag-start yung nagkalukulok pa yung karir mo.
De La Rosa also advises the graduates not to abuse their authorities just to serve their personal interest. De La Rosa advises them not to be selective and to accept whatever assignments will be given to them.
Kung kayo i-assign sa Basilan, go ahead. You fight and fight there.
The PNP chief also noted the new graduates will undergo a strict training first before assigning them duties. Of the 144 PNPA graduates this year, 98 will enter the PNP, 15 in the Bureau of Fire Protection, and 31 in the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. Lea Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Joint Task Force Basilan, is now in active operation against the Abu Sayyaf group in Basilan. Joanano will tell us why.
There has been another hijacking incident at sea in Sibago Island in the province of Basilan. The Armed Forces of the Philippines Western Mindanao Command says suspected members of the Abu Sayyaf group kidnapped the 2 crew members of Panamanyan flag MV Super Shuttle Roro 9. The victims are identified as Captain Aurelio Agacak and Chief Engineer Laurencio Tiro. The vessel was en route General Santos City when it was hijacked by armed men aboard speedboats. The suspects then kidnapped the victims. AFP West Mincom immediately responded after learning of the said incident. An encounter occurred between the military and the kidnappers, which resulted to arrest of one of the suspects. The Joint Task Force Basilan is now conducting pursuit operations to capture the abductors and rescue the victims.
Yung tatlong bangka na ginamit ng mga abductors nakuha na natin. As of this moment, we cannot reveal yung ongoing operations. But for the moment, may nakuha kaming isang doctor at saka isang firearms na wounded.
The military believes the kidnappers are hiding in either the towns of Muhammad Ajul and Tuburan. It can be recalled that last January 4, 2017, a sea-jacking incident also happened in the island. It was immediately resolved by the Philippine Coast Guard.
We could not reveal the operational things we are doing, but definitely we'll try to push the limits of these people, especially in the areas of Tuburan and Muhammad Ajul.
The AFP admits having difficulty in searching for the abductors and victims in the vast ocean of Basilan. The ASG currently has 31 hostages. 23 of them are foreigners, while 8 are Filipino nationals. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Bureau of Customs seizes cigarettes with fake tax stamps worth more than 30 billion pesos at the warehouses of the Mighty Corporation in San Ildefonso, Bulacan. Bernardadis will tell us why.
The Bureau of Customs or BOC raided 2 warehouse of the Mighty Corporation in San Ildefonso, Bulacan earlier. This is after the 20-day temporary restraining order on BOC raids and inspections was nullified. Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faldon led the conduct of the random sampling of boxes of cigarettes. The BOC determined that the tax stamps of the cigarette boxes are fake. BOC officials also showed to UNTV how they determine that the tax stamps are fake.
Ang violation nito na nakikita natin maliwanag, ito ay ang naka-affix dito na mga tax stamp na ay peke, hindi sa genuine. Kung makikita mo dito ngayon, pula yung lumalabas dun sa pula yung lumalabas dito sa indicator niya. So, ang ibig sabihin nito, ito ay peke, hindi siya genuine. Kasi kung genuine sana siya, green yung lumalabas. O sample nito. Makikita mo, green ang lumalabas. So, ibig sabihin, genuine yung tax stamp na naka-affix sa kanya. Original siya. Ibig sabihin nito, hindi ito galing doon sa official na printing office natin, yung APO. Ito yung accredited ng Bureau of Internal Revenue na taga-print ng mga tax stamp. Ibig sabihin, hindi galing sa kanila ito.
The lawyer of the Mighty Corporation who immediately went to the warehouse also denied that the tax stamps are fake. The BOC says it plans to file complaints of tax evasion against the cigarette company.
Ipapa-issuehan natin ito ng warrant of seizure and detention. Ibigyan naman natin yung Mighty Corporation na i-present yung mga ebidensya nila na magpapatunay nga na ito ay genuine at magpresenta ng dokumento na dumaan sa tamang proseso.
Bernardadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Through a search warrant issued by Manila Regional Trial Court Branch 46 Judge Reynelda Estacio Montesa, the National Bureau of Investigation Intellectual Property Rights Division conducted a raid in J. Fernando Street and at one shopping center, Kapitan Ambo Street in Pasay City last Wednesday. Over 80 million pesos worth of counterfeit Nike and Converse shoes were seized. NBI is now preparing to file charges for violations of Republic Act number 8293 or the Intellectual Property Code against the subjects of the operation, namely Ana Chua and Wang Yubo. According to the data from the NBI, the total value of counterfeit shoes seized in operations conducted from January to March this year reaches up to over 220 million pesos.
34 inmates from Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm are now officially free. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
Bureau of Corrections Director Attorney Benjamin de los Santos personally traveled to Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm in Occidental Mindoro to witness the release of 29 parolees. 5 other inmates were also released after serving their sentence. This is part of the government's efforts to decongest the prison facilities in the country. The freed men are now reunited with their respective families.
Papaspasan natin to para ma-decongest at yung dapat na lumaya. Gawa na yung iba, namamatay na lang, hindi pa nakakalaya. Napabayaan.
De Los Santos explains that one of the reasons for congestion in prison facilities is the sluggish processing of cases of inmates who are supposed to be released. Nevertheless, the Bucor chief assures that in the coming days, more inmates will soon be freed because they are on the process of assessing the cases of each inmate. The government is also planning to establish new prison facilities in each region to solve the problem of congestion.
Yung facility, siksikan, kanya part ng modernization law natin will be the construction of new facilities region-wide. Hindi yung unang proposal no nakaraan na ililipat lang yung Bilibid sa Nueva Ecija kasi meron doon 25,000 capacity doon. Ang kasalukuyang population natin sa Bilibid ay 24,000. Pero hindi rin tama kasi inilipat mo lang problema doon eh.
Bucor reports a total of 398 inmates freed in December. 234 of them were from the penal colony in Abuyog, Leyte. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte confirms his second visit to China soon. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
During the opening ceremony of the 31st Biennial Convention of the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry Incorporated in Pasay City today, President Rodrigo Duterte has once again expressed his gratitude to China for helping the Philippine economic sector. He also said he will revisit China upon the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping to attend the One Belt, One Road Summit.
But we are willing or opening the floodgates of our country in importation because you want. So I would like to thank again President Xi Jinping for being just too kind to us. And I'm going there. I was invited by the President himself. The One Road, One Belt, One Road. It's a very ambitious project of China.
The One Belt, One Road Summit, which will be held in May 2017, is the initiative of China that aims to build the infrastructure and trade networks and promote the investment and trade from East China, Southeast, South and Central Asia to Europe. Meanwhile, he asked the Filipino-Chinese businessmen to support the government's campaign against illegal drugs, corruption and criminality. He also asked them to pay the right tax and assert for their rights against corrupt and abusive government employees and officials. The president said he is willing to compromise with tax evaders as long as it is reasonable to avoid humiliation and long judicial process.
And even those with evasion of taxes. The law allows a compromise. The law allows a compromise, and I will allow compromises. Rather than the other party filing a case, then from the tax courts of appeal to the court of appeals, then it will be decided 10 years from now. I also need I need the money now, not 10 years from now. But it must be reasonable.
The chief executive also advised the business community not to give him gifts for his birthday.
My birthday is coming up. Do not give me the gifts. Somebody gave me a Rolex watch gold in advance. I returned it. He does not want to accept it. Well, I will sell it again at a discount. Why should I be Rolex? Now, who would believe me if I talk about corruption, then I wear a Rolex?
Meanwhile, President Duterte immediately left for his return flight to Davao City after the Filipino-Chinese business community event. The president mentioned he is going to have a dinner meeting with Moro National Liberation founding chairman Norm Iswari and other Moro leaders tonight. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Amid oppositions on contractualization, the Department of Labor and Employment insists it is not yet time to abolish the said labor scheme. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
The
Labor Department calls on labor groups to cooperate first for the implementation of the new department order on contractualization issued by the Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE. This is because according to DOLE under Secretary Dominador Sai, the total prohibition of the contractualization system in the country remains impossible at the moment. He notes that to grant the request of the labor groups, a law has to be passed first that addresses all their concerns.
Ang baluarte natin dapat ay Congress. Now we have several bills in Congress being studied. We have been asking the labor sector to give this DO a chance to work.
The Department Order number 174 issued by DOLE remains controversial. The new order aims to strictly regulate contracting and subcontracting in the country. For their part, Employers Confederation of the Philippines Acting President Sergio Ortiz Luis says they are ready to follow the new labor policy. However, ECOP believes some of the provisions of the new order will affect job creation.
Sa halip na we're trying to create jobs, maraming mababawas sa job, pahigpit ng pahigpit.
The employers group also questioned the prohibition of the so-called in-house cooperatives whose contracts allow for manpower supply.
Oh, of course, meron mga nagsasabi sa amin, bakit biglang hinagip yung tinanggal yung isa sa hindi nabanggit dyan yung cooperatives, no?
ECOF further noted that despite the new DO that strictly regulates contractualization, they will continue conducting consultations and dialogues to stakeholders, particularly the labor sector in the issue of unfair labor policy. Meanwhile, members of the Philippine Association of Legitimate Service Contractors were hurt by DOLE's move to increase contractors' registration fee to 100,000 pesos from 25,000 pesos. And to shorten the validity period of registry from 3 years to 2 years. Despite this, the group says the order underwent consultation and that they accept the new labor policy.
Kailangan na namin ipagpasalamat because hindi siya totally prohibit as of now.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Next on Y News. Kadamay members maintain resistance against eviction from housing units in Pandi, Bulacan.
The Department of Energy campaigns for energy conservation this summer season.
Y News will be right back. The members of Kadamay maintain that they will not leave the housing units in Pandi, Bulacan that they occupy despite the eviction notice served by the National Housing Authority. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
The Kalipunan ng Damayang Mahihirap or Kadamay has no plans to leave the government housing units in Pandi, Bulacan despite the National Housing Authority's order. During their protest earlier in Manjola, Carlito Badyon, Secretary General of Kadamay, said that they will fight for their right to have a shelter.
Handa po kaming panindigan, labanan, biguin ang kanilang notice of eviction. Hindi aalis ang mga mamamayan, partikular ang mga Kadamay sa Bulacan, doon sa kanilang mga inokupang pabahay.
The group also said that it has coordinated with the government several times. However, it has no response until now.
Hindi na maantay ang patuloy o paulit-ulit na pangako ng administrasyon mula noong June hanggang January 20 ay minabuti na naming okupahin ang mga nakatiwangwang at malapit ng mabulok na mga pabahay para magkaroon ng bahay ang mga maralitang Pilipino.
Meanwhile, the Department of Social Welfare and Development will not stop providing assistance to relocatees in the area, including the members of Kadamay.
As long po na mayroon silang pangangailangan based sa aming assessment po. Kasi ito naman po ay tuloy-tuloy. Habang na may nagugutom na talagang relocatee na kababayan natin, tuloy-tuloy po ang serbisyo ng DSWD.
There are only 3 days left until the eviction notice issued by the National Housing Authority expires. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development and several barangay officials rescued last night dozens of street dwellers in Barangay Greater Lagro, Quezon City in an operation called Oplan Sagip. Authorities rescued more than 53 street dwellers, including minors who were then brought to the Barangay Hall of Quezon City to be fed. The barangay chieftain says such a move would save people living on streets from accidents and resolve crimes in the area.
Hindi magandang nakikita po natin na ang mga ganitong mga tao ay nagkalat sa karsada. Nandito yung mga taong iyan. So namimirufisyo, kung may pagkakataon, mandurukot yan, mang-snatch yan.
The rescued street dwellers will be turned over to the municipal office to receive aid from the local government. The minors, meanwhile, will be placed under the care of the DSWD.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development has intensified its campaign against cash card pawning. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development will implement an on-the-spot validation measure in April to resolve the issue of cash card pawning among the beneficiaries of the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program or 4Ps. According to the agency, as of February 2017, over 3,000 beneficiaries were reported to be involved in cash card pawning.
Ang pagsasanla po ng cash card ay ipinagbabawal sa programa. Kinoconsider po natin ito na misdemeanor o misbehavior ng ating mga beneficiaryo.
The agency meanwhile clarifies that cash card pawning is not the only violation that can result in delisting of beneficiaries. The assistance given to them might also be terminated if they will not attend regular family development sessions, their children are not sent to school, or don't regularly have checkups. According to DSWD, over 243,000 beneficiaries have been delisted due to various reasons since the program was introduced. However, the department may give another chance to those beneficiaries who changed after committing violations.
Hindi naman natin tinotolerate ang non-compliance or yung mga violation. May pagbabago na mangyari sa mga magulang, it's still better na i-continue yung tulong sa kanila.
Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Manila Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office, or MDRMO, will conduct an investigation in the case of mercury spill at the campus of the Manila Science High School. Aga Kakbay will tell us why.
According to report, 4 individuals had been exposed to mercury spill at Manila Science High School on March 11.
So nandito yung mga yung dalawang staff or teachers. Yung dalawang teacher, dalawang estudyante po.
However, Johnny Yu of the Manila Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office says there are 5 victims of the mercury spill based on the report of the Bureau of Fire Protection and MDRRMO.
Parang lumalabas yata doon sa press con nila na 4 lang yung victims. Well, again, paano magiging 4? Paano yung makukuha namin yung 5 pangalan kung hindi rin nanggaling sa kanila? So, we even took a picture doon sa mga pangalan na nilagay nila doon sa during the briefing. Kaya, now we have these 5 names of the victims.
You further said, aside from the 5 recorded victims of the mercury spill, there is another one who contacted them and claimed being also a victim of the said spill.
Even until now, as we speak, may mga pupunta doon sa amin kasi lang nire-refer na lang namin sa Manila Health na sila, biktima sila ng mercury spill ng Manila Science. So we don't know. Kaya sabi ko, we need to conduct a thorough investigation. Kasi lumalabas sa kanila, 4 lang yung biktima, bakit sa amin 5? But may 5 kaming pangalan. Now, here comes another one coming in na nagsasabi na kung makapagbigay kami ng assistance dahil tinamaan di siya ng mercury spill.
Thus, the agency wants to conduct a deeper investigation on the matter to verify the exact number of students and individuals affected by the chemical spill. In a press conference yesterday, School Principal Eva Nacion explained that based on estimates, 60 millimeters of mercury accidentally spilled off while teachers and students were cleaning a laboratory stock room. Classes were suspended in the Manila Science High School while safety measures are being implemented by the Interagency Task Force composed of the Bureau of Fire Protection, Department of Health, and MDRRMO. Aga Kakbay, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The National Food Authority has expressed the need for government to import rice before the onset of lean months. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Any further delay in rice importation may lead to disastrous consequences. This is how the National Food Authority forecasts the event that might happen if the government will not allow the importation of at least 250,000 metric tons of rice before the lean months from July to September. NFA said their buffer stock now is only good for 14 days. That's a day supply short of the required 15 days. Although it is harvest season now for palay, the agency cannot compete with the dealers. Farmers opt to sell their harvest to dealers which buy their product for 18 to 20 pesos per kilo compared to NFA buying price of 17 pesos per kilo only. NFA said they have to double their buffer stock before the lean months to be able to respond efficiently in times of calamity caused by typhoons or heavy rains.
Hopefully by April ay magkaroon ng pagbaba. Kaya lang dahil nababasa din na syempre ng mga traders yung aming stock position, baka magkaroon ng speculation na tumaas ang pamimili ng palay. So expectedly, pag ganung mataas ang presyo ng palay, mataas din ang presyo ng bigas pagdating ng lean months.
At NEPA-Q Martin, Quezon City, there is no price increase in commercial rice where the lowest is at 36 pesos per kilo while the NFA regular milled rice is still at 27 pesos. UNTV has tried to get the side of Cabinet Secretary Leonzo Evasco who oversees NFA and part of the NFA Council but he was not accessible. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Department of Energy advises the public anew to practice energy conservation this summer season. Joanna will tell us why.
Power consumption is normally high during the summer season because of the frequent use of cooling devices like air conditioners, electric fans, and refrigerators. In line with this, the Department of Energy or DOE has once again reminded the public to monitor their appliance use to avoid high consumption of electricity.
Pagpasok ng summer months, hindi lang rates ang konsumo natin mismo. Talagang tumataas yan pati yung behavior ng mga kababayan natin in terms of using their own household appliances. Pati yung temperatura sa labas, syempre mas double time yung mga appliances mo.
Meanwhile, DOE will also conduct an inspection in several government offices to determine if the policy on power conservation is being strictly implemented there.
Titingnan una yung mga gamit kung efficient ang mga appliance, ang mga facilities tulad ng aircon, ang mga ilaw, ang kanilang mga kagamitan sa opisina. At pangalawa, pagkatapos i-check yung facilities, yung equipment, yung mga appliance, i-check yung behavior. Yung mga nagmamanage ng mga opisina, ano ang mga tamang pag-check kung tama ang paggamit ng enerhiya.
One of the government agencies that usually has high energy consumption is the Social Security System or SSS. SSS Vice President for General Services Nestor Sakayan says the electricity bill of the agency's central office usually reaches 5 million pesos monthly. The SSS admits paying a huge sum for their electricity as some of its operations last 24/7 like in their Information Technology Department. Sakayan also notes that their use of air conditioners also becomes frequent during summer season to avoid inconveniencing senior citizens and persons with disability who fall in their queues.
Ngayon kasi summer alam mo naman na may client ng SSS, mga matatanda na. Yung iba mga medyo PW, di ba? Pero during times na mga cool weather, katulad ng nasa last quarter of the year, nag-o-on ng aircon, basically mga malapit na sa 9 o'clock. Kasi kung malamig naman, 9 a.m. Pero ngayon kasi medyo summer, ina-adjust namin doon kasi may mga client na kami as early as 7:30, 8.
DOE reminds the public to lessen their use of air condition by 2 hours and to maintain the thermostat to 25 degrees Celsius to save 400 pesos in their monthly electricity bill. DOE says it would also be better if the use of lights, televisions, irons, computers, and other appliances will be lessened as well, especially when not needed. Despite the expected increase in power consumption, the DOE assures the public that there will be no shortage in electricity supply and that they see no possibility of power interruption. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Friends of chiropractic Dr. Ferdinand Mejilla have launched an online fundraising campaign following his death. The 50-year-old chiropractor was shot dead on Thursday inside his clinic by his former patient David Williamson. Williamson also shot himself dead after shooting the victim. Dr. Mejilla left his 5 children. He was divorced from his wife and had a new partner. In line with this, Mejilla's close friend launches a fundraising to garner $50,000 for his children. The remains of Dr. Mejilla will be laid to rest on Mississauga, Canada. The family of Mejilla refuses to be interviewed and asks for privacy instead. Ontario Police is still investigating the possible motive of the suspect.
The Department of Health launches new strategies to reduce and eliminate the spread of tuberculosis in the country. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Based on the report of the World Health Organization, tuberculosis is among the top causes of deaths worldwide and the leading killer of HIV-positive people. This is why the health departments of governments worldwide take necessary steps to resolve this.
TB is the #1 infectious disease killer today, and every single day 5,000 people lose their life because of tuberculosis. And TB hits particularly those vulnerable populations that include migrants, refugees, prisoners, people who are marginalized in their societies.
In the Philippines, data from the Department of Health states that there are 294,907 cases of tuberculosis infection in the country in 2016 alone. However, DOH clarifies that the cases are already being treated under the National TB Program. Although the treatment success of TB patients in the country is 90%, it remains among the primary causes of death of Filipinos. Thus, DOH has launched today new strategies to stop the TB epidemic and to prevent the further increase in the number of Filipinos who die because of tuberculosis. This is the 2017 to 2022 Philippine Strategic TB Elimination Plan 1 or the Phil Step 1, an action to unite the government stakeholders and other groups in creating a plan and explore methodologies to prevent the spread of TB infection.
So we now have a new methodology to detect TB. We used to detect it through sputum microscopy, parang slides, and also using X-ray, which is sometimes unreliable. But now we have the gene expert.
The DOH has launched a program in Quezon City as part of the celebration of the World Tuberculosis Day. Greg, not his real name, has been diagnosed with TB in October of 2016. It was a cause of concern for him as he is not a smoker.
Sa may penthouse, maraming naninigarilyo. Yun yung kasing pinaka-cafeteria namin. Open space kasi yun. So mausok. Maraming nag-iyosin ng mga empleyado. So pagbaba mo ulit dun sa pinaka-building, marami pa rin nag-iyosin.
By regularly taking his medicine, Greg was cleared of TB last February 2017. The 2 months is for his maintenance to ensure that his TB will not redevelop. Greg is just one of the proofs that tuberculosis is now a curable disease. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Department of Health.
In line with this year's World Tuberculosis Day, the World Health Organization is launching a new ethics guidance. Robbie De Guzman tells us why.
We are releasing today a new ethics guidance to allow countries and help countries implement the NTB strategy following proper ethical standards and respecting the human rights of everyone.
The new guidelines will address contentious issues such as the isolation of contagious patients, the rights of TB patients in prison, discriminatory policies against migrants affected by TB, among others. A World Health expert, Dr. Mario Revelloni, says tuberculosis is the #1 infectious disease killer today. Every single day, 5,000 people lose their lives because of tuberculosis. TB hits particularly those vulnerable populations that include migrants, refugees, prisoners, and people who are marginalized in their societies. Poverty, malnutrition, poor housing, and sanitation, compounded by other risk factors such as HIV and diabetes, can put people at heightened risk of TB and make it harder for them to access care. About 4.3 million of people with TB go undiagnosed or unreported. Some receive no care at all, and others access care of questionable quality. Thus, WHO prepares for the first ever global ministerial conference on ending tuberculosis in Moscow in November 2017.
This year we have an opportunity at the WHO Global Ministerial Conference that will be held in Moscow, devoted to TB in the era of the Sustainable Development Goal, to promote further our ethics guidance, because one of the main topics there will be that of respect of human rights, respect of equity, and the ethical standard that we are promoting as WHO.
The conference will inform the UN General Assembly high-level meeting on TB, which will be held in 2018. Robbie de Guzman, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
China warns Japan against meddling in South China Sea. Eric Quinto will tell us why.
China's foreign ministry on Thursday has warned Japan not to meddle in the disputed South China Sea after its second big helicopter carrier, the Kaga, went into operation.
日本代表不了国际社会，在中国和东盟国家的共同努力下，我们看到当前南海的局势正在趋稳向好。如果日方还有人想兴风作浪，我想无论是中国还是亚洲国家都不会答应。
Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force commanders on Wednesday took possession of the 248-meter-long vessel at the Japan Marine United Shipyard in Yokohama near Tokyo, where it was docked next to its sister ship, the Izumo. At the ceremony, Japan's Vice Minister of Defense Takayuki Kobayashi said China was trying to make changes in the South China Sea, raising security concerns among the international community. Japan's two biggest warships since World War II are potent symbols of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's push to give a military a bigger international role. They are designated as helicopter destroyers to keep within the bounds of a war-renouncing constitution that forbids possession of offensive weapons. Eric Quinto, UNTV News and Rescue, Shanghai, China.
Protesters against the American Health Care Act descended on Washington on Thursday as a vote to push the bill through the U.S. House of Representatives nears. Witnesses said a number of people were taken into custody as a result of the protests. Activists were taking part in the so-called #WeFightBack protests against healthcare reform, which would partially replace the Affordable Care Act, commonly referred to as Obamacare. Organizers said 24 arrests were made to represent the 24 million who would lose coverage over the next 10 years. Representative Kevin McCarthy, the number 2 Republican in the U.S. House of Representatives, said lawmakers would begin debating a bill to roll back Obamacare on Friday, admitting the votes were not yet in place to secure passage.
The lawyer of the victims of the fatal crash of Germanwings Flight 9525 are surprised about the new report regarding the tragedy. June Garin will tell us why.
Years after the Germanwings plane crash in southern France, relatives of the victims are shocked about reports that the father of the pilot is seeking to restore his son's name, their lawyer said. Gunter Lubit, father of Andrea Lubit, claimed that his son's actions were not premeditated. A Berlin-based lawyer said that his clients were especially distraught about the timing of a news conference with the father scheduled for Friday, March 24 in France, the second anniversary of the crash.
Die Hinterbliebenen sind geschockt von dieser Nachricht. Sie sind im wörtlichen Sinne sprachlos. Es fehlen ihnen die Worte. Sie sind ja soeben auf dem Weg nach Ливане, um dort den 2. Jahrestag zu begehen. Das ist natürlich eine Situation, die Stille verlangt, die Konzentration verlangt. Man will gemeinsam mit den anderen Hinterbliebenen das dramatische Ereignis begehen, miterleben wieder, in der Erinnerung miterleben.
Lawyer Elmar also reiterated his demand for Germanwings parent company Lufthansa to up its offer of 10,000 euros per victim. Gimulya said to the victims, the figure was inadequate in response to such a disaster. Investigators have concluded that Lubitz deliberately flew the Germanwings A320 jet into a French mountainside on March 24, 2015 on a flight from Barcelona to Dusseldorf, killing all 150 people on board. June Garin, UNTV News and Rescue, Paris, France.
South Korean experts and workers continued on Friday to raise a ferry that sank nearly 3 years ago, killing more than 300 people, most of them children, on a school trip. Meanwhile, the South Korea's Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries released an animation video showing the process of the salvage operation for the Seawall ferry. The ferry was structurally unsound and overloaded while traveling too fast on a turn when it capsized and sank during a routine voyage off the southwest coast on April 16, 2014.
Fourth seed Roger Federer meets a 19-year-old tennister at Miami Open. Meanwhile, the U.S. team celebrates after World Baseball Classic match against Puerto Rico. Aga Kakbay will tell us why.
In baseball, the United States broke through to victory with their first World Baseball Classic title in an emphatic 8-0 win over Puerto Rico behind the stellar pitching of Marcus Stroman and a 13-hit attack in Los Angeles on Wednesday. The 25-year-old Stroman of the Toronto Blue Jays was named Most Valuable Player of the tournament after the gold medal ceremony on the field. The United States had advanced to their first WBC title game with a 2-1 semifinals victory over Japan, winners of the first two tournaments. In tennis, 19-year-old qualifier Frances Tiafoe battles past unseeded Konstantin Kravchuk in 3 sets Thursday to set up a meeting with 4th seed Roger Federer at the Miami Open. American Tiafoe, currently the 101st ranked player in the world by the ATP, got past Russian Kravchuk, ranked 103rd, 7-5, 5-7, 6-1 in an opening round match in the Masters 1000 Series tournament. Meanwhile, UEFA is not alarmed about the prospect of a European Super League, a proposed tournament to include Europe's top clubs, replacing the Champions League, according to the governing body's president Alexander Seferin. The Slovenian said that as long as he would be in charge, the current format of UEFA signature competition would remain intact.
I'm sure it will not be any Super League. It would mean a war against UEFA, but you know, nobody can guarantee that. But until I will be there, there will be no Super League.
Seferin also dismissed fears that clubs in the Chinese Super League now have the financial clout to take Europe's best players. Aga Paakbay, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Those are the reasons behind the news. March 24, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Darlene Basingan.
Because we need to know. We will always ask why. Thank you for watching. Why News.